Welcome back to Game of Pros. How you been, man?
I'm good. I'm ready.
Awesome.
2021 draft, baby.
Yeah, you were just telling me about going for runs and breaking your records, and
yeah, man, I'm
sound
trying.
like you're killing it.
I'm trying to run
You're ramping up for.
Trying to run a 4.460. That's my goal. A 4.460. That's right.
That would be incredible. Good luck.
If I could do that, then
let me know, man. That would be sick.
I'll make sure to record that.
Please. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the draft today. Draft's coming up on April 29th through I think May 1st. Big deal. It's gonna be the first day, first round. It always is. We've already had a few interesting things come up that we've talked about. Miami trading their number 3 pick to San Francisco for 3 first-round picks, kind of reminiscent of that RG3 deal, and then trading back up to the Eagles' number 6 pick. We're not going to do a mock draft today. Not really have the time for that. But what we can talk about is just some key storylines of the draft. I'd love to get your insight. Yeah, we can kind of talk this out. So, in your opinion, what makes this draft different from others? Is it more interesting, less interesting? Any kind of notes that you have on this draft?
Yeah, man, I've been excited about this draft for a while. This is probably the biggest draft that I've zeroed in on, for many years. I think the intrigue is that there's so many quarterbacks, right? There's so many names: Mac Jones, Fields, Wilson, Lawrence, Lance, and I think that the fact that there are 5 quarterbacks potentially going in the top 10, I don't know that that's happened before. But it really, it gives everyone a shot also to improve tremendously because, in 5 quarterbacks in the top 10, you include a couple tackles, you include Kyle Pitts, probably, maybe a corner. And you're looking at, if your team is somewhere in the mid to late round, you are still potentially having an opportunity to draft a number 1 or number 2 prospect at different positions like linebacker, defensive back, defensive line. There's a ton of edge rushers out there that a lot of teams are going to land, receivers, running backs. So it's like we've known for a while now that Washington's has the 19th pick. And so we've been able to kind of look at, well, what's the opportunity there? And I think that's what's exciting, even for a team like Tampa, who's the 32nd pick, where you potentially could draft the best running back if they wanted to. I know they just re-signed Fournette, but they could get a top 5 edge rusher to stack on those edge rushers they already have. So I think that's what makes this draft more interesting than most.
Yeah. One of the things that I had planned on bringing up on this question was just, just the immediate help that can be gotten from this draft. This draft is stacked in so many positions. At quarterback, obviously, like you said, we're looking at 4 quarterbacks in the top 10, maybe even the first 4. Wide receiver, corner has been a huge position. Offensive tackle, tons of edge rushers. Wide receiver, I think, is probably the biggest for me. This wide receiver draft was just as deep as last year's draft, if not deeper, and that was kind of touted as like one of the deepest wide receiver drafts in recent memory. So I'm excited, man. I think it's gonna be great. Speaking of quarterbacks taken, so I guess in your opinion, how many quarterbacks do you see going in the first top 10? And out of those, what order would you have them going in?
I think the order that most people are saying and that I've seen, it's Lawrence, Wilson, Fields to the 49ers, probably. Lance, and then Mac, I think, where Lance and Mac, could kind of change. But I do think they go in the top 10. So many of those teams are desperate for quarterbacks. I mean, I think me and you talked, and you said that potentially like the first 4 picks could be quarterbacks. Lawrence to the Jags,
Yeah.
Wilson to the Jets, Fields 49ers, and Lance to the Falcons.
Lance to the
potentially
Falcons.
That would be crazy. So then you'd have another 6 picks where Mac Jones could land somewhere. So I do think they'll all go in the top 10, and it's gonna be fun. Draft day should be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. I didn't quite have all 5 going in the top 10. I had Jones dropping a little bit. Originally, I had him maybe going to the Niners at 12. That's obviously not going to happen anymore. I had seen some mocks with Jones going to the Niners at 3, which I just did not understand at all. But I'm not an NFL GM. I had Jones going, in my opinion, probably most likely to the Patriots at 15. So just outside the top 10. But even still, I mean, five QBs in the top 15 is nuts.
Yeah.
Kind of reminiscent of like that 2004 draft. Eli Manning first overall. You had Phillip Rivers. That was a crazy draft. All right. In your opinion, so we talked a little bit about wide receivers, corners, linemen. Going to running backs. Do you see any running backs being taken in the first round? And if so, who do you see?
I hope there is. It's like running backs are like kind of going in the opposite direction in terms of draft value than quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I hope there is. I think there's
For sure.
some teams on the back end, like the Steelers, Bills. I mean, I know Alvin Kamara is in New Orleans, but they could add somebody if what's the backup there? I am tripping.
Is it still Murray? Latavius Murray?
Latavius Murray. I'm not sure that Murray's going back. So they could draft some running back help, late. Originally, I thought maybe the Bucks at 32nd with the 32nd pick be perfect. But they just re-signed Fournette. They still have Ronald Jones. They drafted a guy in the 3rd round last year. But I'm gonna say either Najee Harris or Travis Etienne do get signed in the first round. And if I had to say where, I'd say the Bills. I think he can take the Bills a little bit further with a more steady rushing attack than they've had the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean their rushing hasn't been great, but I would disagree. I think that they do have two probable guys, 2 guys that could end up doing something for them in Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. Zach Moss, I thought looked great last year. I was, kind of looking at some other stats on him, yards after contact, things like that. Zach Moss is a stud. Singletary is way up there in yards per touch. I think that either one of them could be an option, but if they wanted to shore that up, then I could see that too. In my opinion, I don't think that any running backs would get drafted in the first round or should. Maybe I shouldn't say that they will, because you know how the drafts are. I'm going to be surprised probably, I don't know, 12 times in the first round. But I had just kind of done some digging just to see what the value is of a first round draft pick at running back. And I didn't go too far back, just to 2019. Only running back taken in the first round was Josh Jacobs. He was 24th overall. After him was taken Miles Sanders, who was the 54th pick, Darrell Henderson, David Montgomery, and Devin Singletary. So to give you an idea,
wow.
there is so Josh Jacobs since then has had 568 touches, primarily rushes. There's only one other running back from that draft with really any number of touches right around him. That's David Montgomery, who also has exactly 568 touches since the start of 2019. Josh Jacobs, right. And Josh Jacobs has gotten 2,619 scrimmage yards since then, which is great. But David Montgomery, who was taken 50 picks later, has 2,582. It's a difference of 37 yards between the two of them. Sure, Jacobs has scored a couple more touchdowns. Both of them are in that kind of like 4.5 yards per touch kind of window there. But even you look at the other guys. You have Miles Sanders, who's the 53rd pick. He's only had 421 touches, but he's at 5.7 yards per touch over Montgomery and Jacobs 4.5. Darrell Henderson only has about 200 touches, but he's at 4.9. Devin Singletary only a little under 400 touches. He's at 5.2 yards per touch. I just don't think, you and I had talked about this in prior drafts. You can get a solid running back in the third, fourth round. I just don't think that that's something that you should waste a ton of draft capital on and spend a first round pick on a running back. I think that, aside from the guys who are truly, truly special that you could see really carrying you, like a Saquon or a Zeke for those first couple years, I just don't think it's worth it. For my money, I'd rather take a left tackle, a quarterback, a corner, something like that, instead of a running back.
Yeah, you're right though. It does take somebody special. McCaffrey was a first rounder early. Zeke,
right?
Saquon, like you said. So it has a lot to do with team needs, and a team like the Bills or the Bucks or the Steelers that are so stacked almost everywhere on their roster. Take the Steelers. I mean, they have absolute no run game. They haven't been able to rely on James Conner almost ever. Imagine a guy like Najee Harris in that offense. It would change that dynamic so much, and could make it so that Big Ben doesn't have to throw the ball 50 times a game. And that works, I guess, in the regular season, but you don't see that working a lot in the playoffs unless your name's Patrick Mahomes. But I hope one of these guys is taken. I totally get it. The value thing is really interesting. I mean, yeah, getting a guy in the third or fourth round like David Montgomery, I think that's a gem.
Yeah,
that's a steal.
Yeah, I'd agree. But again, a lot of it's going to come down to scheme, and I think that a lot of the times the running back production is going to have more to do. It's going to have more to do with the offensive line and the quarterback play and their ability to kind of run off of that, and not even so much individual talent. I just think if you're running it up the gut 30 times a game, that's great. But unless you're going to be breaking 4 tackles every time, if the defense knows what's coming, or if your O-line can't block for you, then none of it matters.
So you're just describing
to me, that is one of those tertiary pieces that, as long as you have the proper systems in place, if you have, like we said, great passing abilities and a good O-line who can block for you, you can put most top 4 or 5 round running backs in there and be successful. And a lot of times you're going to find a diamond. I mean, look at what was Aaron Jones, a 5th round pick. Mm-hmm. I just think to use a first rounder on a running back is crazy.
You just described Saquon.
Oh, with the running up the gut 30 times a game?
Well, yeah, the fact that
having to break 4 tackles.
He has to break 4 or 5 tackles, a couple meniscuses and ACLs and whatnot. So I get your point.
All right, we had a few very pleasant surprises last year. Maybe not surprises, but players who shined from last year's draft. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Justin Herbert, really kind of led the way. If you had to choose a player from this year's draft to be this year's, I guess, Justin Herbert, who would that be and why?
I gotta go with the obvious pick. I think I gotta go Trevor Lawrence. It's Justin Herbert was offensive, rookie of the year, but I wonder if Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt, whether he takes that. Who knows? But I just think this guy's going to be given the keys right off the jump, and there's going to be plenty of stats to go out, so that he can win that rookie of the year again. But above that, I think Lawrence probably impresses a little bit more in the win-loss column. That division with the Titans and the Texans, the Colts are tough, very tough defense, but you're playing the Titans and the Texans 4 times. You're potentially looking at 2-3 wins right there, just based on, or not really wins, but shootouts. The ability for Lawrence to showcase, his skills. The Titans defense was atrocious last year, and Texans were probably last. So I think they, also the Jags will have potentially the softest schedule, or should have a pretty good strength of schedule. So yeah, I'll go with the easy answer in Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hate that. Probably a close second for me. I went Justin Fields on that one. Justin Fields to me just has, assuming he lands in San Francisco, has the best opportunity to be that kind of guy. He has all the weapons. He's got Kittle, his Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman behind the line. They shored up their O-line with Alex Mack. They also re-signed Trent Williams, who's got to be happy that he just signed that massive deal. I just think Justin Fields, he kind of even reminds me of Herbert. He's got mobility. He's got a cannon on him. And he doesn't seem like he's afraid to step up into the pocket and launch it 40 times a game. I think I have very high hopes for him. Also, to the point of defenses, you've got Seattle. He's going to play twice a year. Seattle was horrible in their secondary last year. Cardinals were garbage. He does have to play the Rams, which is a tough one. I just think that Justin Fields is gonna have a great year.
Yeah, he kind of has that Kyler Murray running ability, I think, too. That's a good call.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so last year had a kind of a surprise. Even though he was undrafted, James Robinson ended up being a top 10 running back. Are there any running backs in this draft that you see landing in the top 10 in fantasy points? And if so, who you got?
I hope so. There seems to be like a pattern where these young running backs, like that, the sick running backs in their prime tend to be kind of in their first few years in the league before taking like a ton of punishment. But so I'm going to say yes, there will be a top 10 rookie running back. His name's going to be Travis Etienne. He was used a little bit more and more every year in Clemson as a receiver out of the backfield. And if it works out like I think it might, he's going to be going late in the first round to one of those teams like the Bills or Steelers, where there's a lot of points to go around in that offense. So I think that's a guy that you could look for going into your fantasy draft if he's on one of those teams where he's kind of that number one back who I think could be in the top 10 at the end of next year.
Yeah. I think if you had to choose anyone, that's probably the only one, and especially if he lands with the Steelers. Like you said, there's a lot of love to go around in that offense, a lot of points to be scored, and James Conner couldn't really get it done last year. Who did they have starting at running back for most of the year? It wasn't Conner.
It was like Snell or McFarland or something like that.
Right. Benny Snell. I just think that, they're going to have to get, like you said, they're going to have to get away from that scheme of throwing it 50 times a game. And if they have somebody who's a workhorse, maybe like a Najee Harris, Etienne too, though, that they could really utilize that. I'm going to say no one. I don't think we did our top 10 running backs a couple shows ago. I was actually on Friday, but it's just already jam packed. I don't see. I mean, barring injury, I guess, to a couple guys, I just don't see any way that any of these rookies make it into the top 10. We are just like stacked with.
Yeah, I mean, my number
Beast running
10
back.
was David Montgomery. My 9 was Saquon. 8 was James Robinson. So you're right. That is kind of a tough bunch to try and get into that top
Break
10.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, James Robinson did it last year. He was in the top 10. Saquon did it, if not his rookie year, the following
It's all
year.
about usage, though.
Zeke has done it, rookie year was second. So
of course, it's all about usage. And he's going to have, like you said, he's going to have to land somewhere where he's going to be used more times than not. He's going to have to be. James Robinson was the focal point of that offense in Jacksonville. It seemed like every play James Robinson got the ball, so he racked up points. I mean, he really didn't wow a lot of people. He just got like a ton of usage. So you're right. It all just kind of depends on where he lands. Last one on this topic. Justin Jefferson wowed out of my Minnesota last year. A lot of people thought he might be the rookie of the year. Justin Herbert took that, I think deservedly so. But Justin Jefferson looks like he's going to be a star in the league for quite some time. Really wowed a lot of people. Who do you have being this year's Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, I guess going back to usage and depending, where they land. I looked at Devonta Smith, Jamar Chase. They're clearly 1 and 2 in whatever order as far as top receivers. But I don't know about depending where they land. People have them going to the Falcons or Bengals, where you already have Ridley and Julio and Boyd and Higgins. You're essentially putting one of those guys to be the third, receiver there as far as targets. So it's kind of looking further out which receiver could potentially be like the number 2 or just get, just more usage. So I'm going to go Kadarius Toney out of Florida. They're looking at him kind of going in that 18 to 25 range. He goes to a team like the Titans, Bears, or even Dolphins with their second pick. I think there's opportunities for him in those teams to be the focal point, kind of either number 1 or number 2 guy. Obviously not number 1 over AJ Brown in Tennessee, but that's a guy that can run the ball, he's got some of that Tyreek Hill playmaking ability, whereas as close to Tyreek Hill, because nobody's Tyreek Hill, but I'm gonna go Kadarius Toney. That's a guy I've been keeping my eye on for a while, and I think he's gonna be. I'm not gonna say top 10 in fantasy next year, but a starter, like a solid flex play.
Okay, maybe top 15, top 20.
I'll say top 20.
Do you think, would you put him within the wide receiver 2 range? So that'd be like top 20, top 24.
If that's a scenario where he's, let's say, I think the last mock I saw had him going to the Titans. I think wide receiver 2 or 3. 2 is tough. I'm a big receiver guy. I like to have like 3 bona fide receivers on my team, man.
Right. Because you always have Devontae Adams and Julio Jones.
Always. So
every time.
Yeah. And I mean, so Crowder was Jamison Crowder is who I had as like my wide receiver 3. So that's kind of the role I think Kadarius Toney could play in fantasy, except he doesn't get hurt every single second of his life.
Right. That's not a bad pick. I think before the Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries signings, you and I had talked about Kadarius Toney going to the Washington football team at 19, and that would have been a great fit. I thought. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think the football team has more pressing needs than that. But But I do like the player himself. I agree. He's one of those gadget guys. I could see him running a lot of jet sweeps, even just running up the gun. I think he was he a quarterback previously? I think.
Like in high school, maybe.
He could even run some wildcat plays. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do like the Kadarius Toney pick. I ended up going with Jamar Chase, who, just like Justin Jefferson, was a receiver out of LSU. I have him going to the Dolphins, and with Will Fuller playing opposite him, being kind of that speed guy on the other side, I have Jamar Chase getting a lot of usage. I understand that Tua maybe isn't the guy you want throwing the ball to you most of the time, but I think with another year under his belt, he'll improve a little bit. And I think Jamar Chase is going to end up with just a ton of volume.
You got the Dolphins putting Tua from Alabama with the guy from LSU. You think they go Jamar Chase over Devonta Smith, Tua's former receiver?
I hadn't thought about that, but I do. To me, and you and I have talked about this, but to me, Devonta Smith's size and seemingly his unwillingness to put on weight. I haven't spoken to him personally, but it doesn't seem like he's really willing to entertain that. I just think it's going to be an issue. They don't need another Devonta Smith. I love his route running, and he's a burner, but they already have a smaller dude in Will Fuller, or at least a faster guy in Will Fuller. Fuller's put on some weight since the combine, but if I'm the GM of the Dolphins, then it's not really up to Tua. And sure. if it's my choice, I'm going to take Chase over Smith.
You forgot about Devontae Parker, man. What's happening to Devontae Parker? He's Dunsky.
Devontae Parker is Dunsky. Yes. No, he could. I mean, you can play out of the slot.
Might be. Is it a contract year for Parker? I don't know.
No, I have to look this up.
Well, that's why I had to look at Toney, because I thought to myself, sure, if Chase or Smith go to Miami, that's another situation where there's, what are you going to get out of Tua? Is Tua going to be? It seemed like they didn't want Tua to throw the ball more than 25 times a game. That's how conservative they were. Obviously, they'll have a whole full camp with him this year, so that could change.
Right.
But Jamar's a beast. Jamar was the best receiver in college 2 years ago before he opted out this year. Jamar Chase is a monster. This draft class is going to be so much fun to watch. We'll be able to talk about these guys for years too. Like, we'll be like,
dude,
we'll be like in Arcanes, old man. Like, you remember when we talked about Kadarius Toney?
That's almost exactly how I sound right now.
What?
I'm not. That's how I feel, at least. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of the football team being in a good spot for them having the pick, or if it's just how stacked this draft class is. But I haven't been this excited about a draft in years, man.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I was excited last year only and solely because we knew we were getting Chase Young. That made me happy. Right. That brought me back.
That was nice.
Yeah, that brought me back to a little bit more passion for this team than I've had for the previous 25 football. Years. Yeah.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and move on. All right. So this was actually one of yours. I'm going to ask you this question, though. You got to mortgage you have to bet your entire mortgage on one guy to be the best player in NFL history. I'm going to go ahead and field this one first because you're the mortgage guy, and I'm going to let you wrap it up. I had to go Trevor Lawrence. just because we're talking about best player in NFL history. In my eyes, it's got to be a quarterback. As much as I like the quarterbacks, many of the quarterbacks in the first 15 picks or so, I got to say the best bet is Trevor Lawrence. He just looks like he's built for the NFL. It's a lazy answer, but that's all I got. How do you feel?
Yeah, so if it has to be a quarterback, I will bet the house on Trey Lance. If he lands in a great situation, I think, he's young. I think there's something special with this kid that he can kind of be similar to Patrick Mahomes, where, he's got like insane athleticism, but even better. I think Lance is going to show a crazy ability to run, and he can kind of be like a game changer, right? Like how Mahomes was, but I'm thinking like Stephon Curry in the NBA coming in and changing the game. I think a guy like Lance with his arm, with his legs can really be, he could be one day become a legend, right? Or not, but yeah. That's who I think, I've been saying for a while, like that's who I think I would want if my team was in the top 5. I'd say go Trey Lance. He looks electric. Like he looks like the guy is going to be super entertaining. He's got some like Dak Prescott, some Mahomes. He's got, guys are comparing him to John Elway, to Randall Cunningham, like that type of playing style. And those dudes were just amazing to watch, man.
Yeah.
Positionally, I think Kyle Pitts.
I love Lance.
Could become a Hall of Famer just based on what everyone's talking about. But yeah, quarterback wise, I'll go Lance.
Better than Pitts, better than Gronk, better than Tony Gonzalez.
Ooh, man, I can't wait to see Pitts, man. I early in the year last year when Washington was not doing so well, and I was like tracking their draft pick like week to week, and it was like, they got as low as I think 8th overall or something, and I was like, yo, if they like don't make the playoffs, it's all good because maybe we can get a guy like Kyle Pitts. And now a lot of the mocks that I've seen, Kyle Pitts is not going to last to number 8. Some mocks have him going number 4 to the Falcons, 5 to the Bengals. So he's going to be.
Yeah. He seems like a special dude. I mean, like you said, not even just strictly a tight end. He's got the hands of a receiver, body of a tight end. I think he's going to be special. Yeah. Kind of like a tight end that the Washington football team, then the Redskins had, who could not stay on the field. Jordan Reed was a stud.
Yeah. And what another thing about Pitts is, we've talked about draft value in this podcast. There's so many receivers, really. Like we're talking about Kadarius Toney, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, and Jalen Weddle, and there's one tight end, man. There's one tight end that they're talking about who could possibly be in the same echelon as Travis Kelce, Waller, Kittle, so.
Oh yeah.
Isn't there more value in a guy like Pitts? Like if I'm in the top 5, I'm not looking at a receiver because there's so many of these receivers. I mean, I can't remember all the receivers' names, but there's a ton of receivers. Like Rondell Moore is a guy.
I wouldn't want you to list all of them, but there's like 12 probably.
That are going to go receivers. Like top 40. Top 40 picks. There's going to be, somewhere around 8 guys. These teams in the top 5 could land one of those guys early in the second. Pitts is the guy, I think, value-wise. He could be the top tight end for the next 10 years, right? Why wouldn't you want that?
Could be. Yeah. I guess it depends on how much these GMs value the tight end position. if they say we don't need a tight end, what we need is an offensive lineman, we need a quarterback, we need a corner.
Well, I've gotten into
me,
it with some.
Those are the most important
I've
positions. But
I've heard some crap from, Bengals fans on Twitter. The very
yeah, you sure did.
The very lovely place that is Twitter. Where I said, I don't understand how the Bengals, if Pitts is there at number 5, don't go Pitts. And everyone was like, you don't know anything about the Bengals because we've got way more needs than a tight end. Oh, plus we have CJ Uzoma. And I was like,
right, Uzama.
Okay, I guess I don't know anything. I don't know anything about the
sample. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I was like,
they say Jermaine Gresham might come back too, so we don't need Pitts. Yeah, I don't get it. Everything I've seen out of Pitts says that he's a generational talent, regardless of what position he plays. He's like a Jonnu Smith, that he's bigger than a wide receiver, but he could be a wide receiver. He's just a monster. Right. You're going to put him on the line, and he can block, and he can do everything else that you need him to do. But I agree. Right. I think value-wise, that's a great pick.
Look at what Kelsey, Waller, and Kittle do for their teams. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Hell yeah. Well, outside of the numbers, I mean, you look at a guy like Kittle, who just, hopefully he stays healthy, but that guy does everything for your team. Run block. I could see him trying to chase down an interception from 40 yards away.
Yeah.
He'd trip over someone and tear a UCL on the way, but
or even Gronk. Gronk's been, Gronk will probably go down as the best tight end in history, and
I think so.
You take away Gronk from New England and now Brady. Tampa, what changes there? But I'm all in for Kyle Pitts.
Nice. I like it. All right. In your opinion, next year. So we know that currently Jacksonville holds the number 1 overall pick. They are most likely taking Trevor Lawrence. Next year, who holds the number 1 overall pick, and why?
Yeah, so who's the worst team next year? First team that comes to mind are the Raiders. They have blown up their offensive line, which was one of their strengths for the last several years, which looking back now hasn't really helped them record-wise. They teetered around 500 this last year, which doesn't help their draft stock this year. So it's hard to see that they can have a huge improvement. I don't see Carr getting any better. I don't see that defense getting any better. Denver is going to be a lot better. The Chargers are going to be tougher. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. I'm looking at that team as, Gruden, who signed whatever that 10-year deal, whatever it was. I think he's going to be on the hot seat.
10 years, I think $100 million.
If they win 4 games next year, Gruden's got to be gone. Right? All these other coaches that are around, looking for jobs, man. That has to have.
You would think that Gruden would be gone.
Yeah, that has to. So far, look like a kind of failed experiment, right? Bringing him back to coach that team, but I guess they're
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Raiders.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'd think Gruden would be gone, but you never know. I mean, I didn't think that the Raiders would release or trade 80% of their offensive line, and then spend money on Kenyon Drake when you already have Josh Jacobs. None of their moves make really any sense to me. But even still, I had them finishing with the 2nd overall pick next year. The team that I went with next year for the first overall pick was actually the Detroit Lions. They won't be the worst team in the league. I'd have them right around 5. Worst team is going to be the Houston Texans. But the Texans, because they're trying to sabotage their entire franchise, are going to trade the first overall pick to the Detroit Lions for Don Molback, who is 40 years old, and the oldest player in the league, their long snapper. Because that just seems like the kind of thing that the Texans would do. In which case, the Lions are going to end up with the 1st and 5th overall pick. They're going to get the QB that they need so desperately, and the Lions are going to be a beast contender from there on out. That's what I'm saying. All right. We're running low on time here, so we're going to do
right now, man.
No, honestly, if obviously that was a joke. I'm going to go with the Texans. It seems like they're doing everything that they can to try and lose games. They're even going back to last year, that deal for Laramie Tunsil, where they sent Laramie Tunsil they got Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills. They sent 2 okay players, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick. It just makes no sense. They trade away DeAndre Hopkins. They sign David Johnson. Just none of this. They traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. This whole deal with Deshaun Watson, outside of whatever extracurriculars are going on with him, I don't understand any of their moves, really. Seems like they're trying to tank. It seems like they spent most of the offseason in negotiations with Andre Roberts to be their returner specialist. And I just don't get it. So I think I'd have to go with the Texans for next year. All right. Running low on time. So we're going to have some rapid fire questions. So Atlanta is the number 4 pick next year. Do you have them taking a QB or an offensive weapon?
I am hoping my boy Trey Lance goes number 4 to the Falcons. Very bad for Matt Ryan. Very good for the one-day starting Falcons quarterback, Trey Lance.
Yeah, love that. I had him taking Kyle Pitts at 4. Ryan's still signed through 2023. They could take Penny Sewell. They have a little bit of room on their line, but sounds like they're sticking with Ryan. But I'm with you. I would love for them to sign Trey Lance. That was kind of, for me, the ideal landing spot for him. It would be great for him to learn under Matt Ryan for a couple of years. But I think they're taking Pitts. Cincy, number 5. Do they go offensive lineman or offensive weapon?
Said it already, brother. They got to go offensive weapon to go with Higgins, Boyd, get Kyle Pitts if he's there. If he's not, go Jamar Chase. Man, Burrow, if you look up some highlights, man, Burrow to Chase in 2019 was out of this world. Go offensive weapon.
Ooh, that's a good pull. I had them going offensive lineman just because, like you said, Joe Burrow, that's the commodity that they need to protect. We saw what happened last year. That kid is a stud. And their number 1 priority should be protecting him. If they can get Penny Sewell or Rashawn Slater, whoever they feel like has the higher stock at that time, then I say they go for it. It's going to depend on what Atlanta does. If Atlanta does take Sewell, then I'm with you. They got to go Pitts. But I think they're going to end up with Sewell. Lions, number 7 overall. Who do you have them taking? You got Jared Goff, who signed through 2023. I think he can be released after this year. Is that right? Do you have them signing a quarterback or going with an offensive weapon?
If Trey Lance is there, they can get their quarterback that they've so badly needed for the last 2 months since Matthew Stafford left. If not, get Goff some help. Obviously, everyone's looking at the Lions trying to replace Galladay, but I think if Lance is there, get Lance to sit behind Jared Goff for the next year or 2. I think that's their best shot.
Nice. I will go the opposite direction. I think that they're going to want someone to replace those weapons that they lost, the Kenny Galladays and the Marvin Joneses. And I think Devonta Smith will most likely be sitting out there at 7. You and I have talked about it. His size is an issue, but his talent is undeniable. He does everything well. Yeah. And there really is no complaint on this kid other than the fact that he is this big.
Well, Yeah, I like that. To the Lions, I like that a lot. You know, he's kind of got that Rashard, was it Robert Woods? You know, that Goff
Yeah,
Robert
Robert
Woods
Woods.
combo. You know, I think they get that going.
Robert Woods, he's got kind of a Robbie Anderson kind of feel. And yeah, I mean, I think he does everything well. Robert Woods is a great comp, just because of his route running. I think he's a better route runner than Robbie Anderson, maybe even Robert Woods.
Yeah.
Definitely a better route runner than Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay doesn't really get much separation. It's all, he just lives on those kind of 50-50 balls. You throw it up, and most of the time he's going to come down with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Devonta Smith.
Crazy
We'll
hands.
see. Crazy hands. Denver sitting at number 9. They already have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Hamilton, Hamler, Fant. What they also have is Drew Lock at quarterback. Do you think they stick with Drew Lock at quarterback, or do you think they go elsewhere?
If I am the GM of Denver, I am moving up to the number 4 pick to get Trey Lance. I'm a little bit of a Trey Lance fan. Yeah, again, I think there was some comparisons to old school, you know, John Elway with his running ability and ability to launch that ball down the field. So I hope they go ahead and do that. There's 2 teams that are sitting in this league without a quarterback right now that is solidified, or with a potential quarterback in the top 5, and that's the number 8 Panthers and number 9 Broncos. I think one of those teams could potentially move up to get this guy Lance.
Okay. I'm with you. I do like Trey Lance, but they've only seen 18 games of Drew Lock so far. That's barely over a full season. They drafted him second round a couple years ago. I think that they're going to stick with him a little bit longer. They do have some needs on the defense, even though that secondary is one of the scariest in the league. They could use some help at linebacker. I have them taking Micah Parsons with the number 9 pick. Jags, Jets, and Dolphins all have, they were going to have top 3 picks. Now they have top 6 picks. Are there any of these teams that you have making the playoffs next year? And if so, why?
No, I don't. Dolphins were so close. They won 10 games, even in a year where they were, you know, allowing 8 teams to make the playoffs, right? 8 or 7, something like that. But that division, the Patriots will be back. A bunch of their defenders who opted out returning. They added a ton of studs in free agency. Cam Newton has to be better. Like, that's just, like, that was the floor for him. The Bills are the Bills. I mean, where do the Dolphins win games? Maybe a couple games with the Jets. I don't know, but I think they barely missed the playoffs again. I do like the Jags and Jets hopefully improving. That would be good for the league. And like I said earlier, especially the Jags, I think their division's a little bit softer than the Jets and the Dolphins. They're tough, all 3 AFC teams.
Yeah. I would say the Jets are kind of sitting in one of the toughest divisions. They play Buffalo, New England, and the Dolphins, and I have the Dolphins being over the Jets right now. I would say if any of them make it, it would be the Dolphins. The other 2, I just don't see it. The holes on their defense are not going to be completely shored up in this draft. Miami had a defense last year that really shined, and I see that shining again. They had additions of Will Fuller, I think Jamar Chase, give Tua 1 more year of experience and getting first team reps the entire year, and maybe they can make something happen. I don't have a ton of confidence in any of these teams, and I think you make a great point about other teams improving. The frenzy that the kind of the Patriots went through and all of their additions. So you could be right, but as of right now, I'm going to say Dolphins make the playoffs. All right, you and I are both Washington football team fans. Washington has the number 19 pick overall. Give me 2 possible ways that they could go with that pick and why.
So it seems, you know, they shored up the wide receivers with Samuel and Humphreys. They brought in Jackson to fill the Darby left hole and at corner. I still think they might go corner. A lot of people will disagree, but the name I could give you is Caleb Farley, who recently came out with the news that he's going to need a procedure on his back. Caleb Farley is a guy that was, I think, somewhere between 10 and 13, 14 in this draft. So if he drops because of that, I mean, we're in DC here where, you know, our Nationals draft a stud starting pitcher in the first round every year that's kind of already going through or has gone through the Tommy John surgery for their elbow. So I kind of like if a guy like Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech drops to 19, you get him and he could, you know, he potentially could be a stud corner for you. A lot of teams are loading up on corner talent because of how difficult it is to stop these passing offenses in this league. I think about, you know, going up against Dallas every year where you have CeeDee Lamb, who's potentially the best receiver on that team, playing the slot 90% of the time. And if not Caleb Farley, then maybe a guy like J.C. Horn from South Carolina. But I think I'd be happy with a corner. And if not a corner, obviously middle linebacker, I'll go Zaven Collins from Tulsa.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I had, I mean, in my eyes, you and I have been talking about this for months. And even last year when our O-line was graded moderately, they just don't pass the eye test. I think the offensive line is going to be a big problem. My hope is that they're able to get Christian Darrisaw, O-lineman, to play left tackle. I think he would be a major upgrade for us. I do think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to need a little bit of time to get that crank turn in and launch it 40 yards or 50 yards every play if we're lucky. And I think that would be a huge help. Like you said, I think linebacker is going to be the biggest position of need for us. We really don't have any stability at all right there. Top linebackers in the draft, kind of in my opinion, were Micah Parsons, who I have going to Denver over at the 9 pick, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I think could very well be gone before the 19th pick. But if he's available, then I say take him.
Is that the Notre Dame guy?
Yes. He's not going to be the best player available, I don't think. But if you're looking at position of need, then I think the football team has to take him.
Yeah, I'd like a few linebackers taken in this draft. Just load up on linebackers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the more opportunities you have for people to prove themselves, then the more options you have to choose from, I guess.
Yeah. Have you seen the guy Trayvon? I think is it Trayvon Mulrig, who's kind of the one safety who's being looked at in the first round.
That's who that is.
Yeah.
I had seen him. It's kind of hard for me to imagine a safety being taken in the first round.
TCU.
I mean, unless they're.
Yeah. Oh, so we have
Sean
right
Taylor,
now just Everett and obviously Cam Curl.
Right.
Hopefully we get some more depth there. But yeah, number 19 pick, probably not. But I guess I wouldn't be
but again,
horribly upset if they take the best safety in the draft, like kind of like what we talked about, where at 19 you potentially could get the number one safety in the draft, like from all of college. The number, whatever it is, you get the number 2 best middle linebacker. Like, I agree with you where I think they need to look at positional needs a little bit more important than like best player available, because best player available could be, I don't know, like a receiver, and we've got like 7 guys. Like, who even now, like, you got Gandy, you got Harmon coming back, McLaurin,
Calvin
Samuel,
Harmon, right?
Humphreys, Sims, who they just tendered, the other Sims.
Other
Isaiah
Sims. We have
Wright.
7 receivers. Isaiah Wright.
Yeah. So, and teams don't usually carry more than 7. So like one of
And
those
you got
guys will
Logan
have to-
Thomas. There's a lot of mouths to feed there.
Yeah.
Jeremy Sprinkle. Is he coming back?
No,
I
no,
think
he's
maybe
gone.
he might have been on his.
Oh,
okay. He's gone.
No, he's gone. Another thing I caught from you was you said Coleman, referring to the 49ers. Coleman is now a New York Jet. He's the only player from San Francisco
Oh, really?
that's joined the head coach over in New York.
Wow.
Which was another news story, right? Because usually a bunch of players from former team of the new coach goes over to bunch of players will move over with that coach, but only one guy. San Francisco's a tight-knit group.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, I could see that. Kyle Shanahan, man. Dude is, I think he's pretty involved for the most part.
Yeah. Poor guy, man. He's been so close. Twice.
I think, I'm telling you, man, you and Jeremy kind of talked about this on the chat, but Justin Fields gives Shanahan another shot at that RG3 thing. You know? I think that RG3 was something great that fell in his lap. And it was going great for the first, 10 games. But I think that he's going to have another shot with Justin Fields. And I'm rooting for him. I like the Niners.
Yeah.
They have a solid system, good defense. I like Kyle Shanahan.
Shanahan, who should have beaten the Patriots with the Falcons and should have beaten the Chiefs. Should have beaten the Chiefs up 10 going into the fourth quarter. If there's one guy who needs one, man.
He's an offensive mind, bro. He should have beat the Seahawks with a broken RG3, but he didn't do that either.
Who was it? Was it Cousins who came into that game? It was, right?
Yeah, it was.
The Kirk Cousins.
RG3 should have never played that game. I saw him come out to like the right hash mark on crutches when he first entered the game. I don't know what he was doing after. He couldn't walk. It was ridiculous.
Well, you didn't need to. I mean, it was all like that RPO threat and Alfred Morris like running 6-7 yards a pop. We went up 14-0 early in the game, and then his legs.
Yeah, but if they know that RG3 isn't going to be, I guess they couldn't have seen that coming. But whatever. It's another chapter for both of us. All right, man. You got anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. It was really good catching up with you. Thank you, everyone, for listening today, for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Catch up with us on Thursday. Thursday, we're going to be doing a really great show. It's going to be handcuffs, fantasy handcuffs, the best and where you should or shouldn't draft them, and kind of what strategies to deploy on that. So I appreciate you, Dennis, and have a good night, brother. And that's right. Your team is all handcuffs every time.
Handcuffs.
Rarely works, but that's your lifestyle, so that's okay. All right, man. Take it easy. It was good seeing you, and I will see you Thursday.
All right, y'all.
Later, bro.